Welcome to Year 11 Information Evening at St Peter's Catholic College. My name is Mr Scarr, Trust Director of History. The aim of this presentation is to support Year 11 students in their revision for the coming rehearsal examinations. On the week beginning November the 9th, history students will sit two pre-public exams, or PPEs, for history. Students will complete two full past papers. The first paper sat will last 1 hour, and it will examine the paper 1 topic, conflict and tension, the interwar years, 1918 to 39. The second paper to be sat is the paper 2 topic, Britain, Health and the People, circa 1000 to the present day. This paper will also last for 1 hour. The first exam paper will test students' knowledge and understanding of the conflict and tension interwar years. The paper will ask questions from across the full unit. Therefore, students must make sure they revise content from all three sections. Section 1 on peacemaking after the First World War, including the Treaty of Versailles. Section 2 on the League of Nations and international peace. And Section 3 on the outbreak of World War II, including the actions of Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. Students will answer 4 questions on this paper. The paper is worth 40 marks. 4 additional marks are awarded for spelling, punctuation and grammar, which is tested in the final question. For question 1 and 2, students will be asked to use sources. They should spend 5 minutes on question 1 and 15 minutes on question 2. Questions 3 and 4 require students to write analytically using only their contextual knowledge. They should spend 10 minutes on question 3 and 20 minutes on question 4. Paper 2 will test students' knowledge and understanding of the Britain, Health and the People course. The paper will ask questions from what students have learned so far, up to modern day medicine. Section 1 covers the medieval time period and the reasons why medical progress stood still. Section 2 focuses on the Renaissance time period and the reasons why there was some limited medical progress. Section 3 is focused on the industrial time period and the reasons for rapid revolution in medical progress. The final section examines medicine from 1900 until the modern day. Students will answer 4 questions on this paper. This paper is worth 40 marks. For question 1, students will be asked to evaluate 1 source. They should spend 10 minutes on this question. Questions 2 and 3 require students to write analytically using only their contextual knowledge. They should spend 10 minutes on each of these questions. Question 4 is an essay question requiring students to make a judgment on the significance of a change factor on a medical development across the 1000-year period. They should spend 20 minutes on this question. Each Year 11 history student here at St Peter's will receive both of these revision guides. The orange coloured guide covers the Britain, Health and the People course. The green one covers conflict and tension. Moving on to preparing for your examination. The science of revision. Recently, there has been a great deal of research that has come to light on how our brain works. When we learn, concepts and knowledge are stored in our long-term memory. Our long-term memory is, in theory, limitless. To make learning sticky, we must regularly reach back into our long-term memory, to what we've learned, and bring to mind what we wish to recall. It's important that we regularly clear these paths to our long-term memory. This requires a deal of hard thinking and sometimes can feel frustrating, but the science has shown that it does work. Daniel Williams says, "Whatever you think about, that is what you remember. Memory is the residue of thought." So a really useful guideline in your revision should be to ask yourself, am I thinking hard about this? If the answer is yes, you will find that it will begin to stick. Some GCSE History Revision words of warning. Firstly, avoid revising with your mobile phones. They are a distraction. Secondly, do not read your revision guide from cover to cover. This way, you're not engaging with the material, you're not thinking about it. Thirdly, be careful with excessive use of highlighters. Be careful revising with friends. They can be a distraction. And finally, YouTube has some good videos on there about GCSE history, but only look at the videos that your teacher recommends. Make your own flashcards and use them. Flashcards are an extremely useful revision aid in history. Flashcards can be made on events or individuals. They can also be built around questions. In this case, I've chosen Andreas Vesalius. His name goes on the front of my flashcard, like so. On the back of my card, I write my key points about Andreas Vesalius. Making the flashcard is useful. It requires you to think about the topic itself. That's why it is advisable to make your own flashcard. Once flashcards have been made, students then can ask members of their family to use the flashcards to test them. If a student's knowledge of a particular card is weak, it can go on a pile to be retested in the very near future. Timelines are also helpful. Firstly, the act of making your own timeline really makes you think carefully about the key dates. When finished, timelines are very useful in seeing how the period fits together. This can support a student's chronological understanding. Having a strong grasp of when events happened is also useful when evaluating the provenance of historical sources. This very simple timeline shows the lifespan of each Tudor monarch. It gives us an instant visual of the chronology of the Tudor period. It provides a secure understanding on which further knowledge can be built. Summary diagrams show clearly how a topic fits together. They provide a very clear and simple visual of a topic on which further knowledge can be built. Again, the act of making a good summary diagram requires a great deal of thought, which in itself is useful in making knowledge stick. Ask your teacher for as many examination-style questions as possible. In GCSE history, most questions are built around stems. For example, the stem for this question is explain the significance. Planning answers to as many question stems as possible is effective preparation for the examination, as it gets the student thinking about the content that may come up and how they will meet the assessment criteria. This examination style question stem could be planned as a flashcard or even as a summary diagram. Here are some key steps that will help you to do this. Step 1. Look back on what you've been taught about examination technique. Step 2. Plan answers to each question stem on flashcards or maybe as a summary diagram. Step 3. Practice writing out your answers in timed conditions. Step 4. Self-assess or ask your teacher to assess your answers. Useful websites and home learning. GCSE Pod and Seneca have a number of quizzes on the topics which you cover. BBC Bitesize has useful content, and Mr. Alsop's history page has some excellent podcasts on the 20th century. Follow NPCAT History on Instagram for posts on Britain, health and the people. Know the specification of your examination board well. Specifications can be found at www.aqa.org.uk/subjects/history/GCSE. AQA publishes a specification on the knowledge to be covered. Whilst this is used by the teacher, it can also be incredibly useful for students. Whatever content is mentioned on the examination specification can appear on the paper. As you can see, this is the specification for conflict and tension, the interwar years, and the key areas of knowledge there can appear in questions or in sources on the final examination paper. The temptation would now be to say good luck, but of course luck does not come into it. GCSE grades are not made by luck, they are built on hard work and revision. I implore you all to prepare carefully and thoroughly for your PPE examinations, following the advice given. The old adage is true: the harder you work, the luckier you get.